There's three different ways that I price. So a percentage, a gut feeling. I know that's funny because it's a total reciprocal of a percentage. And then the next thing is like, what do I want to make per day? So for me, it's I want to put in my pocket $700 net profit per day after all expense. What do I got to do to make that work? So that's like the goal. And then the next thing is like, if I make under $400 a day in my pocket, I'm incredibly pissed off and I did something wrong, right? And so that kind of motivates me.
How do we actually get paid what we are worth? Well, we're going to talk about this on today's episode of the Green Industry Podcast, and I brought on the show Keith Kalfas from the Landscape Employee Trap. Keith is an expert on knowing his worth, knowing his numbers, and in today's show, I'm going to ask him what strategies he uses to set his prices. So without further ado, here's the man, the myth, and the legend, Keith Kalfas from the Landscape Employee Trap.
Teach us a little bit about what you've learned about pricing over the years.
Okay, so I just got off the phone with my friend William, the tree guy I put in my videos. He's got a tree service business here in Michigan as well. I sent him a text. He calls me immediately, and the text was, bro, this 15% price increase to deal with inflation isn't working, and I'm having to go back and lower my prices a little bit because I'm not closing the leads as normal. So at the beginning of the year, we are all amped up about price increases. And then all of a sudden now the economy is going through this dip. The S&P 500's tanking, crypto's tanking. I don't know how long it's going to last. I'm not an economist or qualified to talk about that. But I can see a direct repercussion of it happening out in the marketplace in the field and talking to all these customers. So out of every 100 phone calls that come in, we only close 2 jobs.
Wow.
But out of every 100 phone calls that coming in, we're pre-qualifying leads over the phone and talking to customers and actually only setting up about 10 actual quotes. Now, I don't do lawn care anymore, so it's not like this recurring weekly or bi-weekly thing. We have to go out and actually sell, close, build a relationship with each customer and turning them into a client that either we're doing like a landscape job for from $2,000 to $20,000 or some type of maintenance job where we're there a couple times a year doing this recurring thing. But now for every 10 qualified leads that I actually, like the window cleaning jobs, we just close over the phone on Google Earth, but I gotta still actually go visit the landscaping ones. Close rate is 20%, 2 out of every 10 quotes. And some people say, that's crazy, dog. My close rate's 80%, 90, I close 100%, dog. It's like, I don't know what, hey, there was a time when I first started my business, I think it was the first 2 years, I would go out to your house at night with a flashlight. I didn't care how low I had to go. I was closing that mug. And so when you're solo and you're by yourself, and if you don't have employees and insurance and payroll and workers' comp and all those overhead requirements or costs of goods sold that you must meet, you will be going out and selling work that keeps you busy that's unprofitable. So there are times when you got to lower your prices. Like you want to get the cream of the crop and the best of the best jobs and have as many leads coming in as possible. So then you can slant the math into your favor. So you are getting the best of the best. And with pricing, it's all directly relevant to where you're at in your business. A stage 1 business is like you're a guy in a truck, you're working your tail off and you're wearing all the hats by yourself. That's where you make the highest amount of profit because you don't have any employees or labor like that. You don't have admin or staff or someone in the office. A stage 2 business is where you're selling the work and you got a few employees in the field and now you have somebody helping you in the office, but you're still all over the business, like on the pulse. That's where I'm at, stage 2 business. And you can make that a lean and mean profitable machine. But as soon as you move into a stage 3 business, which is where you're like totally out of the field and you've got a foreman or an operations manager, you have people helping you do that, the profit margins just drop so quickly. So if you want to talk about pricing, like you have to grow your way out of that problem, right? I'm not there yet, but if you want to talk about pricing, it's so completely relevant to where you're at. And I think in terms of looking at things in terms of percentages and hitting goals based off of percentages. And there's 3 different ways that I price. So a percentage, a gut feeling. I know that's funny because it's a total reciprocal of a percentage. And then the next thing is like, what do I want to make per day? So for me, I want to put in my pocket $700 net profit per day after all expenses. What do I got to do to make that work? So that's like the goal. And then the next thing is like, if I make under $400 a day in my pocket, I'm incredibly pissed off and I did something wrong, right? And so that kind of motivates me. So when you talk about pricing, It's a massive conversation. Here's the thing. There's this supply and demand. The amount of money that you can make doing something is directly proportional to the amount of people that are lined up who are willing to do the same exact thing as you can do and whatever qualifications they have or don't have. So when I was 14, 15, 16, I would wash dishes in a restaurant. I worked in tons of restaurants in between landscaping. In the winter, I would work in restaurants. And I was always angry and pissed off because I would only make anywhere $5, $7, $8 an hour. But there was always a stack of applications in the office of other people lined up who were willing to wash dishes for $6 an hour, right? So for me to go march into the office and demand more money, they would say, well, too bad, screw you, because I got a bunch of other people lined up. So when it comes to landscaping, I found that the only thing that can separate you so you can raise those higher prices and demand it and get it are social proof. Tons of people on Google and on Facebook that are other customers that are saying that you do a great job, that you're a stand-up company, that you have all these, positive reviews. So customers who have been through the gamut of who have hired low price, non-insured, chuck in a truck guys, which it's great, you get in where you fit in, but maybe if they've had a bad experience with other contractors who, it could be $1 million company they're hiring. I guess that part doesn't matter as much, but if they've done a bad job, some customers, actually an entire criteria percentage of customers are willing to pay more money, sometimes double, to have peace of mind, which means the job's going to be done when the contractor says they're going to do it at satisfactory quality. There's not going to be any problems. So they're paying for that level of peace. If you can exemplify that to your customers on your website, on your Google, on your Facebook, and your videos, your social media, your marketing materials, and everything's congruent and matches, and you look like a company that's probably bigger than you are, you have this very professional, top shelf type of trustworthy look, and the way you communicate, the way you pick up the phone, all those things, when all those things are cohesive and congruent, the customers get this perception of you, and the word of mouth travels that you're more professionally tailored, even if you're just doing yard work. So therefore, when you have that and you have this haptic feedback in the environment of you being and doing the thing in a professional way, the customers are saying that back to you, you have haptic feedback, it bakes into your subconscious mind and into the way you act in your business of confidence. When you have more confidence and you walk around the property with a client or you talk to them on the phone and your prices are higher, it goes such a long way to where you can charge 20 to 30% more than somebody else. And I talk about all this stuff because I've done tons of low paying jobs. I've worked for free. I've worked for less profit. I've had mistakes and not had the money to fix it and had to come out of pocket. Like, so much frustration in this extremely hard landscaping and lawn care business. After going through it for years, your subconscious mind keeps reshuffling the deck, and you come to these conclusions that, oh, this is kind of like the way that is. This is. Some things you can't change. So how are you going to see it, and how are you going to attack it? Are you going to be a victim? Are you going to cry and complain about why it sucks? Or are you going to find a way to make it work? Because you can just go on social media and find tons of people who have these lean, mean, profitable businesses that are working. Obviously, they're showing you a highlight reel, or some of them show you the mistakes. I love it when the guys do that. But if other people have figured it out, so can you. So when it comes to pricing, I think that if you have a 50% gross profit margin that you aim for, which means, like, let's say you do $1,000 in work, 50% of that is gross profit. And if you are dipping below, depending on the size of your business, because, a business that does $1 million a year, the owner might only make 8 or 10% profit, depending on the industry or what he does. If he's a solo operator, he might make as much as 70% gross profit. So let's just say, see how the question and the answer changes depending on what lens you look at it through?
Totally.
A lot of people speak for themselves on social media, and you see all these guys arguing and fighting, and this guy's an idiot. Oh my God, he's a genius. He's a dumbass. And all this, and it creates all this controversy. It's because there's this integral philosophy that everybody is actually right from their own lens and perspective, and they have reasons why they feel the way they feel. They're not all crazy. So when somebody speaks in absolutes, like this is the absolute way, it's the most professional people I know, before they talk about things, they spend 10 minutes giving you all these disclaimers of why I might not be the guy, that this might not be the right information for you. It might, but I think that you get in where you fit in and you resonate with people that are tuned to where you're at. So pricing, 50% gross profit margin. I make a 35.5% net profit in the business.
Is that after you pay Keith Kalfas as an employee of the company? You're getting 35% after the owner's salary's already been drawn?
Yeah, so the actual business itself, there's no money left over for the business to make a profit. So I pay myself a payroll of literally $500 a week as the owner of the business.
Okay. So that 35% profits only pulling out $2,000 to pay you as basically an employee.
This is the funny part, because you could talk about owners' draws and distributions where you take money out of the business and you do have to pay self-employed income tax on that, which is a different rate, which is actually a less rate than that of actual payroll taxes. But you have to pay yourself a quote unquote reasonable salary, because if you get audited by the IRS, then you have a problem if you're just taking all the money. But if you have an LLC, you have something called pass-through income, which means you could take it all, but you just pay the full tax rate. That's why people say, I want to be an S Corp. Well, you're not actually an S Corp. You're being taxed as an S Corp. So therefore you can have a split in your income. But you want to take, according to what I'm saying, I'm not advising anybody. I don't know anything. I'm just a landscaper. But you want to take a higher percentage of that money in the forms of actual legitimate payroll. So all of those, FICA, Medicare, state unemployment insurance tax, all that stuff is being taken out of it. So if you ever do get audited, it shows that you're fully legit. Now, the owner's draws and distributions are different, which I'm not taking any distributions out of the landscape business because it pays for my truck. It pays for my cell phones. It pays all the insurances, and it pays for, you get all these perks. So I'm not counting that as income, but it is income. There's all these perks and tax write-offs if you go to the GIE Expo and you stay in hotels and do all this stuff and you have conversations and meals and everything around education. That's the cool thing about owning your own business. So yes. Now, I was paying myself like $1,000 a week. Oh, sorry, I'm talking nonstop.
Oh, keep going, man.
Okay. And I had this conversation with one of my coaches. It's like, oh, you're paying yourself too much. So you see some of these guys in the Facebook groups arguing like, well, if that's all you make and this and that, you ain't making shit. It's like, it's true. You're actually not. And that's why when it comes to the question of pricing, take a pyramid. Oh, sorry, I'm not doing like weird. What are those people?
That's the thumbnail. It's the Illuminati.
Yeah. So what I did is I was like, well, I want a year-round salary, so let's just pay myself $500 a week year-round all through the winter. I don't plow snow anymore. That's a totally different subject. Oh yeah, take a pyramid and look at the top. And that's like the pharaoh. This is a horrible explanation because I'm just talking freely, right? Freedom of speech. And let's just say at the bottom is like people working. Now, this isn't like Amazon or anything. So we're just talking about a tiny landscape business. But most of the time, your small business, if you flip that upside down, it's the owner carrying all that responsibility, and the pyramid's upside down, and he is on the bottom running around like a chicken with his head cut off, carrying all this infrastructure on his shoulders. So I've been really diving in and thinking about this pricing question and saying, what if I reverse engineered it all? This is so powerful what I'm about to say. And I knew this years ago, but the reality and the haptic feedback of the marketplace, every time I tried to raise my prices this high, was not working. So I just kept going back down to scrambling. Here's what it is. Say, if I had a business where I did have a secretary or an office manager, somebody answering the phones and doing the paperwork and running the payroll and doing the scheduling, and I really did have a key man or a right-hand man. He could drive a truck or not, but somebody in the field to take all that, the grunt work off your shoulders and make the decisions and run back when the tool was forgotten and get the materials. So you could focus on just doing the sales and marketing and running the business, and everything was licensed and insured and legit. And you didn't have to stress if there was you had to buy this thing for $500 or a backpack blower blew up. And you had a tiny little profitable, abundant business. Because I want to make it abundant before you grow it. You want to get it all figured out at the small level. Because I believe if you try to scale something without having anything figured out, you're just scaling this thing into chaos, right? The problems you have now are going to exacerbate it. But what would, in a hypothetical question, what would you have to charge to actually make all that work, and it really works for real, and you still get paid? So then you just sit down and do all of the math and be like, oh, I'd actually have to charge $74 per man hour. Okay, there's billable versus non-billable hours. Billable is actually on the property working. Well, this is more like port to port. As soon as that guy punches in or turns the key in the truck and goes, to the time he comes back, to the office or to the shop and punches out, the gas, the equipment, that you guys have heard all this stuff before. And when you're at what's called the stage one business, where you're just kind of by yourself or just you and a guy, you don't even got time to think about that shit because you're so busy trying to get the work done. You don't have time to think about the next level. So you just kind of stay stuck. You say, what would I have to charge? Oh, I would have to charge $74 per man hour. Well, how do I figure that out? Then you read some books, get some coaching, watch some videos. You say, oh my God, we have to do a minimum of $1,100 per day, or a bare minimum of $680 per day. $1,100, it would have to be like this nominal. And then sometimes in landscaping, you get these jackpot jobs where you'll make $2,000 in a day, right? But find out what that minimum is. Let's break that up into morning and afternoon. Let's break that up per job. Let's find out a minimum per job. $312.50. Yeah, $312.50 minimum to do any job on any property, right? Now that rule can be broken, because if the neighbor right next door wants something done, it's literally right there. We can hop over and do it and make money. There's no travel time, no commuting. But when you start to figure out stuff at that level, and then you create policies around that, which is like, okay, we are no longer allowed to accept any jobs for under this much. Then you figure out your service area and how far you're traveling. I was just talking to a guy today. So I'm in Michigan and I live in like Macomb. I live like an hour away from like Brian's lawn maintenance. He's over in Novi, right? And in between us, there's these couple cities called Birmingham and Bloomfield that all of the local landscapers and contractors and window cleaners, they say stuff like, bro, that's where the money's at. The money's in Bloomfield. True. If you were to look at the United States, one of the highest dense wealth per capita zip code areas is this Bloomfield Hills area. There's like sports stars and celebrities and mansions and houses that are huge, but you have to drive an hour to get there, or 45 minutes. And some of those people actually aren't, this is mean to say because I'm not speaking on absolute, but are stingier and greedier and more penny pinching type of people than just like the normal middle and upper middle class people that might be closer to you. So this inconvenient money, I found out that from my business and my model, that was a farce and that was a lie. And I wasted like 4 years driving back and forth. We still had plenty of work, but after all of the drive time and everything, I wasn't making anywhere near the amount of money. So I chose to narrow the service area from like, it was like 15 miles. And I was like, well, 10 miles, then 9. Now it's a 6-mile radius. So when you ask about pricing, there's all these other things that come into play when you're talking about it. So if you were to travel outside of that service area, what would be the dollar amount that you would have to charge? Now your feelings get in the way and you say to a customer or to yourself, like, oh man, well, I feel bad charging the customer $700 for something that should only be $500. Or if you're cutting grass and you charge this guy $35, but this other guy, same size lawn, he's out of the area, you got to charge him $50 because the drive time. I feel bad. Well, those feelings will make you broke and end you up frustrated doing the same shit next year and the year after and the year after. It's only till you like actually write it down and create like this policy, whatever level you're at, and says, I do not, here are the list of things that I do. Here's the list of things that I hate doing. Here's the list of things I love doing. Here's the things that I do not do no matter what. So it's been very tough in this transitional growing thing. What happens is when you get really strict and you make these agreements with yourself about what you will and will not, like, I don't know what it is for lawn care, but say from now on, we have a $40 minimum. What happens? All these customers are calling, will you please cut my lawns, please? The last guy charged me $25. Sorry, it's a $40 minimum because of all these inflation and all these things. The customer doesn't care what the reason is. They want their lawn cut for $25. And you know, you're like, oh, it's right around the corner. Well, I could do it. And like, if you buckle and you go do that thing, you're going to be out there and it's going to be 90 degrees. And then you're going to look and do all the math and realize, oh my God, I'm only actually making $1.75 for cutting this lawn. Like I started doing that math and comparing it to my level of suffering and saying, I'm going to be trapped here forever. This is like the lowest paying job ever. But beggars can't be choosers, and you can't make those decisions if you don't have enough leads coming in to quantify and back up those decisions. So you got to get better at marketing and advertising and getting more positive 5-star reviews and learn how to do Google ads and pay-per-click and all this stuff, which means staying up late, burning the candle at both ends, spending the weekends instead of hanging out with family and friends and watching and playing video games or whatever else you do. It has to be all about the business obsessively to learn marketing and advertising, to drum up that higher perceived value, get the phone to ring way more. So, but then when the phone rings more, then you got double and triple the phone calls you can't handle. So now you got to figure out how to make more money so then you can hire somebody to help you answer the damn phones, which costs more money.